Hello, you are listening to the Don't Put That in Your Mouth podcast. I'm Ellen the Kitchen Warrior, and I'm here with Jeffrey Orkin of Urban Hydro, which is a hydroponic garden right in the midst of downtown Nashville at the top of one of the cool new, is it condos?
Yeah,
condo buildings?
It is, yeah.
And I found Jeffrey on Facebook, and I posted a message to him and said, hey, I think what you're doing is really cool. Let me come see what you got going on. So we set up a time and a day, and I showed up. And I got to say, when I showed up, I was expecting some kind of translucent structure on the roof of the building that was letting in sunlight, but you literally converted like a storage room with one tiny, tiny little window into a hydroponic garden. How big is that room?
It's about 135 square feet.
Okay. And it's got a window that's like 1 foot by 1 foot, maybe?
Yeah.
So you rely on electrical lights and
Correct.
things like that.
Yeah.
Tell me how did you even know how to do this?
It's mostly been just hobby experimental type stuff. So I've lived in downtown since 2007, so as long as I've been in Nashville, and started trying to figure out how to grow my own food inside, and tried soil and didn't have much luck, and kind of learned about hydroponics because I was doing a lot of home brewing, and the home brewing store, All Seasons, that I buy stuff from, also sells hydroponics, at which point I started getting into hydroponics, and just years of experimenting and playing, and I'm still learning as I go, honestly.
So, but you work for a landscape company. Does that knowledge play in on what you're doing with the hydroponics, or is this a totally different knowledge base?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, it's a fairly different. I mean, there's some things that might cross into the same realm, but for the most part, it's a completely different process and science.
Okay. Can you just tell me what are the things that you've grown in your hydroponic garden so far?
I've experimented with a variety of herbs and leafy greens, basil, arugula, lots of different lettuces. I've grown tomatoes. I tried growing hops for a little while. Trying to think what
Did that
else.
not go well?
No, the room really wasn't set up for that when I tried it. So
Okay.
if I wanted to try it again, I'm in a better position. But they do take up a lot of space, so I don't know that I'm in my current room. I'm going to try that again.
Okay. So tell me, it seems like any time I see a hydroponic garden, they're just growing leafy greens. It seems like that's mainly the bulk of what I see.
Sure.
Is there anything that you just can't grow in a hydroponic garden?
For the most part, you can grow almost anything. There's just some things that might not make as much sense because they might take up too much space, or they might require different types of pollination that are more difficult. And,
right.
The reason you see herbs and leafy greens a lot is because they're a quicker producing product, and they do really well. So they're more forgiving if there's swings in temperature or pH or nutrient and that kind of thing, whereas a lot of the flowering stuff might have a little more finickiness to them.
Okay, so it's a real pH, like you've got a narrow margin on the pH?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially with hydroponics, you're wanting to optimize everything, and so that's one of the reasons it's so much more productive than growing outdoors. Is because you have such control over those things. And so, yeah, I mean, the idea would be that all of your pHs and nutrients and temperature and CO2 and all of that are in an optimal range to produce those, extremely good results.
Right. Is there, what about root vegetables? I would imagine those would be kind of hard.
It's possible. I haven't experimented with it much. I've read a little bit about people who are doing that in their home hydroponic stuff, but I think on a commercial scale, it's not as viable.
Okay.
But it's definitely being done.
Okay, interesting. So tell me basically, what are the components of your setup?
Starts with the reservoirs, so that's where the water is being held. I've got 200 gallons, actually 250 gallons of reservoirs. And in the reservoirs are air stones that help to oxygenate and mix the water. And then all of that is pumped vertically into the top tier. So it's a 3-tier system. That basically recirculates. So it starts at the top and then gravity feeds down to the bottom through all 3 systems and then back into the reservoirs. And then it just starts over again.
So you've got water pumps.
Correct.
Lots of tubing.
Yeah. Pumps and tubing and fans and monitors and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about if somebody was really enthusiastic about this and they've got this storage closet that they don't use for anything important and they want to make it into a hydroponic garden. Tell me what they would have to do to their closet. Like, obviously you need shelving to set the trays on.
Yeah. And truthfully, like every room ends up being a new kind of project, depending on how much you're wanting to grow. There are some fairly good prefab, like tabletop type systems, so you could outfit, a storage room with that. The more lights you start adding, the more you have to think about heat. And so then you have to start thinking about how you're going to ventilate the heat and whether or not enough fresh air is getting in and that kind of thing. So there really are a lot of variables to do it really well. Granted, you can set up a system and grow food and not have everything perfectly in line. It's just not going to be optimized.
Right. I remember when I saw your place, you had a humidifier for certain parts of the year, dehumidifier for the other half of the year. You had a CO2 tank, putting carbon dioxide into the air, with a fan, distributing that around the room. What else did you have going on just to set up the right environment?
I have AC units as well, and then for the winter there's a heater in the room. So it's just all of that stuff is connected to a climate control system. So basically it measures the different variables and it turns things on and off to adjust that. And
you've got everything on timers?
For the most part, a lot of the stuff runs all the time, and so I'm actually testing out different light cycles now, so some of my lights are just running all the time. The fans run all the time. The CO2 is on a timer, as is, actually the pumps for the most part run all the time, so some things are on and off, and some things are just on.
So let me ask you, what is the electricity bill?
I've been using about somewhere between $150 and $200 a month in electricity when the whole room is operating, and that's growing over 400 plants and 130 square feet. So, I could, if I was doing all lettuce, I could probably turn somewhere between 40 and 60 heads of lettuce a week out of that space.
And you're selling it to people.
Yep.
I meant to tell you to bring me a box of stuff today, and I give you $20. Oh well. So you've got some stuff on timers, some stuff's running all the time. How much maintenance time does this take for you? Are you in there every day? Are you having to do stuff every day?
I go every other day. And oftentimes that's more just because it's kind of my happy place. It's not necessarily because I have to be there. There's a lot of automation stuff that I don't have that I could have, so it could be a lot lower maintenance. But again, I kind of like putting an eye on it and playing around up there. For the most part, when I go in there, I'm checking pH levels, nutrient levels, water levels, and adjusting that type of stuff. But there's the next iteration of the Urban Hydro project, there'll be a lot more automation to it to help, make it so that stuff stays more accurate more often.
Right.
And reduces the labor time to run the place.
Right. Now let's talk about the water that you're using. Are you using fluoridated water?
I'm using Nashville tap water for now.
So it has fluoride in it, yeah.
I've actually been researching. A lot of people are using RO filters with a carbon filter to remove a lot of the things. That both helps with pure water, but more importantly, it helps bring the parts per million of basically what we're measuring in nutrients down in the water. So the way nutrient levels are measured is with electronic conductivity, which is measured in parts per million. And so when you put one of my measures in tap water, it still registers a number. And so when you run it through an RO filter, you can bring that number down real low, which allows more nutrients to go into the water to grow better plants.
Could you use rainwater?
It wouldn't be ideal, but you'd have to have some kind of a filtration system. I mean, it's
just so
possible.
Just so it doesn't get the
Correct.
pumps and everything all messed up?
Yeah, I mean, you'd still ideally probably want to run that through like an RO filter or something.
Yeah. What about microbes? You know how soil is so rich in microbes, and it's such an important part of our health, our bodies. Is there anything you're putting into the water to introduce those microbes to the plants?
Yeah, there's a really great product, organic product called Hydrosome that has a bunch of microbial activity, and it helps to keep the systems clean, as well as adds that beneficial bacteria type stuff to the water.
Is that the bottle you showed me that had fish ingredients and stuff?
No, that was the nutrient.
Okay.
The Hydrosome is something I've started playing with recently. It's a great product. It's a little expensive, but it goes a pretty long way.
Yeah.
So.
Have you figured out what the monthly costs are total for this thing besides the electricity, with all of the different additives and, you know?
I'm tracking a lot of that information. Some of it's a little bit, it's a little hard to say specific monthly costs, because a lot of the products extend over multiple months.
Right.
But I mean, you know, that's part of the whole project for me, is to really analyze as much data as I can, so that I can move into a 5,000 square foot space in the coming year and really have all that figured out. So.
Right. You had said that initially you had done a Kickstarter project to raise some of the funds for this. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so when I decided to move into this specific space, I was growing in another space in the building, and it just wasn't ideal, and so asked the building if I could use this space. And when I started setting things up, I realized that I needed a lot of electrical work, which was going to cost about $1,500. And at that time, still now, it's not my full-time job. It's a hobby more than anything. And so it was one of those things that I felt like maybe I could reach out to the community to help make that project happen. So I knew I needed $1,500 in electrical work, in addition to, a couple more thousand in systems and that kind of stuff. So raised, I think it was just over $3,000 on Kickstarter to really make the project happen. So I spent that plus maybe another $1,000 or $2,000 to make this room happen.
Yeah. And were people excited and enthusiastic and willing to support you?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of Kickstarters end up down to the last minute, so I think it took me that last day to get the goal, but in the end, I got what I was asking for. So, in theory, I probably should have asked for more, but I didn't really feel like a lot of the Kickstarter campaigns, you're buying a product, you're getting something, and mine is more abstract. I mean, yes, the Kickstarter supporters get lettuce or basil, but for the most part, I don't have a product that they walked home with after supporting it.
Right. All right, now I want to just go ahead and get radical here, and let's just talk about when society might collapse. If somebody wanted to have a solar-powered, off-the-grid hydroponic setup where they could just keep making their own fresh food, would it be possible to keep getting seeds from plants and just indefinitely keep yourself supplied with seeds and growing plants, or is that not feasible?
I would say, of course it's feasible. Now, you could not very easily solar power my operation.
It requires too much electricity.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot.
Thank you.
But hydroponics is done in a greenhouse setting all the time with natural sunlight. So
Right.
You could definitely go that route. It just, it might not provide you year-round growing capabilities depending on where you are and that kind of thing. But, I think you could feasibly power the pumps and that kind of stuff with solar. And then, yeah, I mean, you can. I don't personally know a lot about seed saving, but of course it exists. So.
Yeah. So do you use organic seeds?
I do.
Where do you get your organic seeds?
Most of what I'm buying is through Johnny's Select Seeds, which is a larger company that sells to lots of farmers and stuff.
Wait, are they online?
Yeah, they are online. Yeah.
What's the website?
JohnnySelectSeeds.com,
Okay.
probably. I usually just Google things.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell me some other online resources that you might recommend to people who would want to learn more about this?
Yeah, I mean, that's tricky. When you start searching online for hydroponics, you get a lot of marijuana-related information. I've joined, there's a group on Facebook, and they have a website. It's like the Urban Hydroponic Growers Association or something like that. And that's been a really good resource just for talking to people and meeting people that are doing similar things across the United States.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And your page is Urban Hydro. Is it Urban Hydro Nashville?
Urban Hydro Project.
On
Facebook, and then urbanhydroproject.com. And we're on Twitter, but I'm not a very good tweeter, so you might not find much there.
You need to outsource the tweets. Maybe let your lettuce tweet for you. And we'll say people joke that you're growing marijuana, but you do not grow any marijuana.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Just for the cynics out there who are thinking that to themselves right now. Okay. So I think for me personally, I would love to at some point implement some type of hydroponic indoor growing space in my home. But I don't even know where I would start. What's your advice for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, a lot of the situations are going to be different. And I've had this question asked enough times that, I think that a part of what Urban Hydro Project will become is, consultants for that type of thing as well. In my place, the first thing I looked for was the sunniest window, because ideally I'd like to be as resource efficient as possible. And so if I can do this without supplemental light, that would be ideal. So I have some vertical systems hanging in, a southern-facing window that do pretty well without any artificial light.
Is that in your place that you live, right?
Correct,
it's not with the other.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's just straight through the window sunlight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you get good sunlight, and then from there, there's a really cool system. Windowfarms.org. Has these really cool vertical systems, and that's what I use in my personal home, just because they're 4-plant stack systems, and they actually look pretty cool.
Okay, windowfarms.org.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of do-it-yourself ways to build these systems with water bottles and that kind of stuff on that site as well.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And you did mention if somebody... Sorry, my dog is taking over the broadcast right now. You did mention some standalone kits that people could start with.
Yeah.
Where would people look for that?
Locally, I think All Seasons Gardening and Brewing is probably one of the better places to access hydroponic stuff.
If somebody's not in Nashville, what would you say?
I don't know of a specific online site that I would, send someone to. There's just a lot of Googling could find different systems.
Right.
There's plenty of do-it-yourself homemade options. A lot of people make hydroponic systems out of Rubbermaid containers and that kind of thing. I'm actually working on a system that I want to take into the schools that's going to be made out of just like a styrofoam cooler like you buy at the corner store. Because that's another important piece to me, is just the education opportunity with hydroponics and teaching kids where food came from. And, the ability to grow indoors year-round. Because a lot of the food education is challenging just because most of the food is grown when the kids are out of school in the summer.
Right.
So being able to bring it indoors,
right.
I think, provides a good opportunity.
Yeah. So are you saying that you're available for schools in the Nashville area to come and do a talk?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And they can reach you through urbanhydro.com.
Urbanhydroproject.com.
Right, sorry. I'll put links under the video so it'll all be there.
Yeah.
And are you gonna get me some pictures so that maybe I could do like a slideshow of pictures?
Sure. Be happy
That'd be great. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you feel like you want to share with people?
No, I mean, I think the more people that can go like the Facebook page, the better. In Nashville, I'm currently looking for another space that I can reclaim, and so that was part of the beauty of this project, was it was a completely unused space that I reclaimed and made productive. So I'm putting a lot of feelers out there looking for a larger warehouse type space that might not even be on the market for rent, but just a space that's not being used for anything that someone might be interested in this project expanding into.
I would love to see, I saw something about a shopping mall that was converting the middle of the mall into some community gardens, indoor gardens.
Yeah.
I would just love to see something like that happen, where it's in a public place, high traffic public place, and it's just right there.
Sure.
That would be so cool.
It would be, yeah. Well, find me that space.
Well, if anybody listening knows of a space, get in touch with Jeffrey. Well, I love what you're doing, and I'm sure at some point I'll probably be calling you saying, hey, help me get started.
Be happy to.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for coming.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.